Hello, Ed.
Hello, Holly.
Hello from a distance. Feels very strange for you to be sitting with Doctor Who in the background. The
Well,
TARDIS. Very nice poster. Very nice
oh,
indeed. Um, so how are you, Ed? Are you okay?
yeah. So this COVID stuff, isn't it? I'm all right. Getting on,
Yes. Oh.
old, same old. What can you do, really?
Well, let's not get too depressed because that's not great. As you can see,
Sorry, I forgot to ask. How are you? How are you getting on?
oh, I'm okay, thank you. I'm not in the normal podcast studio. I'm in the other studio because I have to film a person with a violin later on.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be interesting.
Nice.
Yes, yes. So let's introduce our guest, shall we?
Yes. Let's
Yes,
do
yes,
that.
yes. As always, I say I'll let them introduce themselves. Hello, guest.
Hello there. Hello, Holly. Hello, Ed. How are you both doing?
Fine, thank you.
How are
Fine,
you?
thank you. What about
I'm
you?
good. I'm good. I was worried for you at the beginning there, Ed. When you said, you didn't seem too excited about everything with the COVID stuff. So I'm hoping you're all right.
Oh, sorry.
See, from that's the Ed that I expect from the Christmas promo video that you guys put out. That's the Ed I expect to see on every occasion from now on.
To be honest, Ravi, I'm really. It's just one of those days. It's a Sunday, exhausted. Only slept 12 hours last night, but it's all right because I'm drinking water, which is very healthy for you.
Oh, well done. I'm very glad that you're drinking water this time.
How have
Well,
you?
to be fair, hang on a second. That bottle isn't transparent. There could be gin in that, and we'd never know.
There could
True.
there could be rum in it for all you know.
See, counts.
I'm just Ravi, who are you? Please tell the viewers who you are.
Who am I? I am a singer-songwriter from Northwest London. I primarily play acoustically, but in terms of genre, kind of indie rock, pop rock, emo rock blend. Yeah, I've had some fun playing across London and the home counties for the past few years or so. Had the pleasure of playing with Holly Biddell on a few occasions as well, which has been absolutely wonderful. And that's me. I've got a new single coming out soon called Mistletoe on the 20th of November.
Nice lead on from that, because that's the
Exactly.
next question. That's the next question. So it's good lead on from that. Well done, Ravi. This is not your first podcast I can see, because that was a good lead on.
Thank you very much. When is this going out, by the way? I should probably ask that before I.
So this one will be this week coming, because we're now up to date. So this one will go out this week coming up. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it'll be out this Friday. Ooh,
Exciting times. So
I know.
yes. So tell us your new single. How did you record it?
So Mistletoe was recorded with a gentleman called Cameron, who runs. Bless you. He runs a. Well done for catching that anyway, Ed.
Catch
Good
it, bin
catch.
it, kill it.
I don't want you to get infected with my virus.
We've proven there that Ed is the expert at following government guidelines.
Yes, because he called in sick yesterday and today because he was scared of the COVID. Bless him.
I've been told not to go out. My mum
Oh.
said to me that I shan't be going out, and if I do go out, then I'm going to get a whopping from her. It's one of those days.
I've had the same message on several occasions, so solidarity with you, Ed. I feel you. Don't worry.
Yes, it was hard to keep social distance yesterday.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Also, but whilst I have interrupted you, I'd like to ask you a question about your track. If that's okay.
Oh yes, go on. Yeah.
So, what is the message behind Mistletoe? Is it a Christmas? Is it about?
It is a Christmas song, so it's a Christmas. I like to phrase it as being a Christmas song for people who wouldn't ordinarily listen to Christmas songs. So it's there is a cheesy element to it, and it is kind of saccharine sweet, particularly for the first little bit of it. But towards the end, it's kind of this song that you can really kind of headbang and rock out to. Towards the end of the song, the last verse in particular, the guitars hit like a freight train, which I'm really proud of. And it's a song that you can just headbang to and forget all your worries. I think particularly, not everyone's into Christmas, and weirdly for me, I'm actually a bit of a Scrooge. So writing a Christmas song is a bit of a strange phenomenon to me. But I think that's the reason why I wrote it, because I wanted to write something that I would want to hear, over Christmas, and something that I could rock out to.
And the good thing is, because we've heard it, because you played it on your live stream, and it doesn't. There's like an element of it just near the end of the chorus bits where you say mistletoe and you're like, oh my god, okay, this is a Christmas song. But then throughout the whole of the rest of it, you're like, this isn't a Christmas song. This is like just a really good song.
Well, thank you very much.
Was that your intention?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with releasing a song at Christmas or around the Christmas period that is actually a Christmas song. I have to just point out for our viewers, you should be discouraged from writing Christmas songs.
No, that is true. I mean, it's interesting that you say that, though, because lyrically, if you look at it, actually there's kind of winter themes laced through all the lyrics. I think I've just put it together with a kind of progression and a melody that isn't Christmassy. So if you're going to play it expecting Mariah Carey to jump out of your sound system, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
Poor Mariah.
What it will do is that it will be a very good replacement for My Chemical Romance's cover of All I Want for Christmas. So if you want, something to replace that this year, this is the ideal opportunity for you.
You can tell when it's a Christmas song when it has the jingle.
Yes.
Oh, those are there. We put jingle bells all over that song, so don't worry, they're there.
So tell us about your recording process.
So the recording process, essentially, the song was written before last Christmas, and I think a key for me this time round in making sure that the recording went well is that I did a really thorough demo. One thing that's really stood out to me as I've come to learn a bit more about production is that as you're building a demo, you need to make it as good as you can, because when you're writing parts to lay down on a song, you're not just writing parts to contribute to the feeling of the song, you're kind of writing different instrumental parts to occupy a sound space and actually fill up, the spectrum of sound that you've got there. So that was key. Essentially, wrote it last year, worked on a demo. I wanted to continue playing it at shows in January and February, but I thought I better not, because people will probably be tired of Christmas. So I thankfully refrained from that. And then I went into the studio with a guy called Cameron Sanderson. Cameron is an amazing producer. He already has, as an artist in his own right, he's got fans across the world and has this amazing studio in his back garden. And so I went out to record with him. He was immediately on the same page with me in terms of the influences that I had and kind of wanting it to really hit hard towards the end of the song. And essentially we just built it up from there. A lot of the song, because of the thorough demo, was kind of carried through from the demo process in terms of the parts. But as all good producers do, as you would know, Holly, you kind of contribute ideas as you go along, and you chip in and you have a bit of chat about what would go well in different places. And he did that, and he added some lovely different piano parts and gave some suggestions in terms of vocal harmonies and vocal add-ins that we could do. And I think we've turned out with a right Christmas cracker, if I say so myself.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
I think people just saying on from that. I think sometimes, and it's very nice of you to say that about the producer, that you take the elements that they have given you, and you're rolling with that, so to speak. Does that make sense? So you're not just saying, I wrote it this way, I'm going to do it this way. You're taking their creative input on board as well, and you're appreciating their input.
100%.
And you've just...
It's kind of I was speaking to someone about this the other day, and the way I regard it is kind of a marriage, right? in terms of essentially it's two people wanting the best for something else, but they might be coming at it from different angles. So there's a bit of compromise involved, a bit of discussion, a bit of negotiation. Sometimes I've known people have relationships with producers that don't quite work out, where they're pulling in two completely different directions with a track. But luckily, I think it's really important as an artist to kind of make sure before you settle into recording with someone that they understand what you're going for, so they know what to suggest and maybe what not to suggest as they're going down the route of production.
Ed?
Yes.
Is he still there? He's there. He's just listening. It's cool.
No. It's because you can't really talk over anyone on Zoom calls. So I've been silent, letting our guest. I believe. So it is like having a relationship with someone. You have to make sure you have to ensure you have a connection with your producer, and ensure that you are both on the same page. Now you may go about this initially at cross posts, so you may be wanting the same outlook, but reaching that final destination from cross posts. So I do understand what Ravi is saying. But yeah, when you're writing a song, you take it to a producer for them to record. It's like all the musicians that come to us, Holly, for example. We have to get a feel of the sense of styling and the way that they want to implement their own being into their tracks. So yes.
And I think I agree. I think that sometimes when you suggest something and then the look on people's faces when we suggest something really quite that's not what they would expect, and then the look of, oh my god, really? Okay, we can try that, and we're like, oh no, it's fine, trust us.
Ravi can comment on this. So we've had a couple of instances in the past where Holly and I have been recording bands, and one very particular band.
Please don't mention the name. Just we'll keep it at this. Just a band.
It was this massive song, right? With loads of different sections in it, and all we wanted to know was where do each section start, right? But they couldn't tell us that, and I said, look, maybe it might be beneficial for them to create a song structure for the producers, so we know who's playing what where, and like where, for example, the first verse is compared to the bridge or the chorus or something like that. Now, as a musician who goes to producers, would you ever be expected to do something like that for a producer, or is that just our way of thinking?
I don't think it's your way of thinking at all. I think, to be honest, it's a way, and going back to what we were saying earlier about that thing being a relationship, it's about making sure that everyone's on the same page, right? You all want to make sure that everything's in the right place at the right time on the track. And it happened with Mistletoe. What actually happened is that I tracked the acoustic guitar parts at home. So I was lucky in that I just sent them over so we could save time in the studio. And as part of the process before we began any of the studio tracking stuff, it was a case of, right, which bar does the first verse start? Where does the first verse end? Where does the first chorus start? And going through the song like that, because really that's how you map out the progress of the song. You can't, it's like that section of it is like being on a journey, right? And you can't tell what stage of the journey you're at without having any street signs.
I think I agree with both of you in the sense that you've got to know what's going on, but in the sense of some artists know the song quite well in their head, so
but
if they
send you as a producer, that's the problem.
If they send,
and I think it's like, I think you'll know this as being as someone who's played solo and in bands, Holly. You'll know that when you've played with a band, for example, it takes you time to kind of lock in, right? And then to the point where you and the other musicians can almost read each other's thoughts, and that happens with musicians and producers as well, where once you spend enough time with each other, oh right, so this artist's going to do this next, and then I can prepare for
Yeah, see that's what I mean. I mean, because we work with a lot of people that come to us and say, I want to book a 3-hour session or a 4-hour session, and in that time I want to do X, Y, and Z, but they don't understand that things take time, and you need to sort of work out how they are doing things and how you're doing things, basically.
I think another thing, it's kind of like when you do one of those exam answers at school, right? Where they always say, don't leave anything out of your explanation. You need to write as if the other person doesn't know what you're talking about. And it's kind of like that, because the producer, I think, like we said, it doesn't live in your head. Like, the producer didn't write the song. The producer doesn't know what your influences are until they ask you. And it's the same with the different marker points of the song. Particularly given, and I think, again, as I said, for Mistletoe, I had pretty much had a fully fleshed out demo where I knew it was going. Some bands and artists don't. They just come in with a recording of something that's hastily recorded on a note on their phone, and then you kind of have to run with that, right?
Yeah.
So then after that, you have to make sure you're on the same page with them and go, right, what goes where?
It depends.
I can't just guess.
Yeah, it depends on how much extravagance they want in their production. So, good word. But it does. I mean, it depends if they just want to use like a guitar, a bit of drums and a bass. That's it, and vocal. That is, like, to me, really like achievable. But if they want to add little tiny bits of like chopping up samples, having an organ, anything like that. Everyone loves an organ, innit?
I have loads of them.
What, loads of organs? Oh, is not my granddad, my stepdad. I don't know where that. My stepdad's got like 4 organs for some reason. I don't know why, but he just has.
But Holly, as humans, we have loads of organs, so yeah, very special.
Joke there. Fell flat. He's laughing at his own joke, so it's fine. I
found it funny. I said,
okay.
I should hope you've got as many as anyone else.
I was laughing silently in the corner.
Oh, okay. So when you finished and laid down the track, how did you record it? Did you do like what we like to call a luxury home studio? Because obviously there are different levels of recording. And what I'm imagining when you said he's got a studio in his back garden is like a luxury one, if that makes sense. Like it's
it's a proper kitted out studio. So what was the first thing I noticed is, and the first thing I've ever done with anyone on, it's the first thing I've ever done on Ableton with anyone. I've never recorded using Ableton before.
Wow.
So that's his primary DAW that he uses, and he's an absolute wizard on it. So you wouldn't think it when you hear it, but those drums that are on the track are actually MIDI, and they're not played in MIDI either. They're actually just programmed directly into Ableton. But he was able to just get such a great human feel and a kit that sounds huge. Essentially, in terms of the kind of massive rock section towards the end there, it's just lots of doubling of guitars. Again, like I said earlier, kind of occupying that sound space. So not only making sure that we had doubles of guitar parts really low down on the neck to occupy that low end, but also stuff really high up the neck that you can't even really hear. But it's dug into the mix and occupying a bit more of that space to beef it up a bit.
I was just waiting for Ed to jump in. Sorry, I'll jump in again if you want, Ed. I was just waiting for Ed to jump. You're very quiet today.
I thought you'd like to add something. I was gonna.
Oh no, you can go, my love. You go first.
Well, actually, so I relate to that quite a lot. Actually, but I've been recently given a track to mix, and I love hearing the bass guitar, right? But I'm not one of those people who love hearing the low end of a bass, especially if you have a very melodic player. Hearing all of the notes very high up on the fretboard of a bass, it excites me. I like it. So having to cater for that, to allow those frequencies to pass through a track to be heard and to be brought up front, does take a lot of time and effort to do. So yes, it's really nice to be able to hear all of those different sounds that you can get from a guitar, which you might not normally.
And it's one of those things that you think, if it wasn't there, there's something would be wrong. Something would be missing, but nobody would probably know, to the untrained ear. No one would probably know that you've done that. But if it wasn't in there, then it would be different. Am I correct, Ed?
It's weird how you can pick it out, right? Like you know that there's something, there's a part that should go there, but it's not there. What is it? But to everyone else, they're like, sounds fine to me.
Yeah, it's really strange that you say. It's like when you haven't written the song yourself, and you're sitting there and you're mixing something, you just think, hang on a minute, I can feel something here, and it's something should be there.
Something doesn't sound
yes,
right.
I need to do this. Oh my god, that was what I was trying to get. That technique, what I did, that's what I needed.
This goes back to what you were saying about that kind of dividing the different sections of the song up as well, I think, because you have to know when to do that and when not to. Because, another thing that we tried to get into this a bit was a bit of dynamic range. So just before that final chorus hits really hard, you've got this bridge section that goes quite small. So you have that big impact of the final chorus hitting. Yeah. And if I suppose if the band doesn't know where the different sections of the track are, they're not going to be able to tell you when they do that. And I suppose even as a producer, when you're having to then go and mix this stuff afterwards, even if it is a small track, because I suppose you're going to have variations in bass tone between a verse and a chorus anyway, for example, you're going to need to know when to actually have that happen.
Yes. Well,
and by the way, Ed mentioned something about not being overly keen on hearing a bass. I did a series of shows with Holly and her band last year, and I have not heard the phrase "more bass, please," in my life.
But the thing is, the more I played with Ed, that sounds wrong, but the more Ed played in the band that we were in, I've noticed that bass players, they just love to. I've never noticed before Ed. They crank it, and I don't know what it is. They just need to hear it, and it's like, to me, no, but Ed, even you admit some bass players, you're like, oh my god, it's really loud. It's really loud. Even you admit, oh my god, it's really loud.
No, Holly, right. Distinction that needs to be made here. It's not the volume of my amp needs to be louder. It is the fold back in my headphones needs to be louder, because I can never hear my own fucking instrument. It's because you're singing too loudly.